I'm going to introduce our speaker. Elad Ben-Hur is joining us all the way from Israel, and I'm super excited. This is a preview of his brand new talk that he'll be presenting next month in Singapore at the Agile Scrum Gathering.
Next week.
What's that?
Next week.
Oh, it's next week already.
No, it's also next month, by the way.
Well,
we are in July, so it's supposed to be in August, yes.
Yes. So yeah, next month makes it sound further away. It's actually next week. So we're super excited that we get to be the first to hear it, and we don't even have to travel all the way to Singapore, although that sounds lovely right now. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Elad here, as soon as I can find my stop sharing.
Yes.
There we go.
So,
welcome, Elad.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Really, really excited to be here in front of this amazing community. Thanks for this opportunity. So today we will going to talk about communication skills in life and at work, and I will introduce myself in a few minutes. But before we are really starting, I will start my talk. I want a little bit to warm up a little bit, okay? With a few Mentimeter question, okay? So if you can, please click on this link that I just shared. Let me know if you are in.
You'll find that link in the chat.
Yep. And I will present. Oh, people already doing it. Yes, so let's start with the first question. What builds more trust? Admitting a mistake or solving a problem fast? Okay, let's wait for more people to join. If someone wants to share, admitting a mistake or solving a problem, why you choose it? And by the way, there is no like a right answer here. If someone wants to speak, go ahead. Okay, any other answers?
We do have some in the chat. Charlene says admitting a mistake shows integrity and transparency.
Nice, thanks for sharing. Okay, so let's move on to the second question. Which is harder to say, I don't know, or I was wrong? And please share in the comment, or you can speak, yes, why you choose it. I'm just curious. If someone is writing something, please let me know, because I don't see it.
Yeah, but I know that saying I was wrong is always more difficult. Charlene, again, thank you. Saying I was wrong shows ownership. Yeah.
Wow. Nice. I didn't thought about it.
And builds trust.
Didn't think about it. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Next question. What is more dangerous to a team? Poor planning or poor listening? Okay.
John says that's a tough one.
Not from the results. Okay, next one. Is vulnerable or vulnerability is a word of positive? Is it a negative or positive word?
Dominic said on the last one, if you can't listen, you can't receive feedback and improve.
Okay, we will talk today a lot about vulnerability. Okay, next one. How do you know if your team feels psychologically safe without asking them directly? This is, you need to write an answer or word or something. What do you think? Okay, ask for help, people speak up, reactions, participation, high engagement. Wow. Really, really amazing answers. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
In the chat, we have open conversations to add to that list.
Okay. They freely admit mistake. Okay. And let's jump to the last one. What does it mean to be a good listener? Oh, listen to understand. Wow, this is amazing. Two years, only 1 month. Loved it. Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, thank you for your honest answer. It was really, really amazing. I learned a lot. So, I want to start with my talk. Let me know when you can see it. Sorry, not this one. Yes. One second, sorry. Yes, and sharing. Okay, please let me know when you can see it.
Yep.
Perfect. So you can see my presentation, I guess. Perfect. Okay, so let's start. So I want to start with a confession. I used to think that I was a pretty good communicator, but I found out the complete opposite. Like 15 years ago, I was asked to help manage a complex work project. I had never been a manager before, but I had worked for plenty of bosses and learned from them how to manage people. At least that's what I thought. So how hard could it be? Very hard, it turned out. I was fine at creating processes and planning, but time and time again, I struggled with connecting. Like my calendar was full, my mouth was working nonstop, but something strange kept happening. I had finished explaining something, and people look at me like I just read them in IKEA instructions in Swedish. Have you ever had that moment? And so one day, a team member told me that some people in the team felt that their innovation ideas were dismissed by other team members and that their contribution isn't really heard. They said, it's incredibly annoying. We need a better job of respecting each other. So I told them that I heard them and began suggesting possible solution. I said perhaps we should make it clear and define what is the duty of each one of the team member. And in response of it, they would get even more upset and would say things like, why aren't you supporting us? You should be outraged on behalf of us. And then I would get upset because they were attacking me for giving them a good advice, right? This was not a good conversation. This was not a good situation. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Elad Ben-Hur. I have 20 years of experience in the tech industry. In the first 10 years, I did almost every role that you can imagine or think of in the QA field. And a decade ago, I make a shift and join the Agile revolution. I work with R&D teams in the first 5 years as a Scrum Master, and in the last 5 years as an Agile coach. And I especially interested in the role of communication in team success. And over the years, I saw how clearer, more honest conversation can transform not just team dynamics, but also results. And my current focus is on helping leaders and teams improve communication, trust, and create space for real dialogue. This entire talk is based on research that I read and practiced in my life and at work. And you will see at the bottom of the slide relevant reference to the research. And by the end of this talk, you will have practical strategies to improve your communication skills, improve your team, and the value you deliver to customers. And by the way, if you have any question, don't hesitate and ask in between. You don't need to wait until the end. It's very important. So before we get into any of those strategies, there is a misunderstanding we need to face. We think of a discussion as one conversation. But the reality is that each discussion contains many different conversations. Those conversations tend to fall into one of the following 3 buckets. There are practical conversation where we are talking about what this is all about, what we are really discussing, and what we want to solve. These conversations leans into data and reasoning. Then there are emotional conversations where we are talking about how we feel. The goal is to share our feelings, but we don't want to solve anything. This conversation leans into stories and compassion. And then there are social conversations about who we are, the social identities that are important to us, and how we relate to each other and to the society. And this conversation leans into identities and relationships. And what the researchers said is that we have learned that if people are having different conversation at the same moment, they can't really hear each other. They cannot really connect. And this is exactly what was happening with me and my team, right? They wanted to talk about how people were treating each other. They wanted to have an emotional conversation, but I was obsessed with suggesting fixes and was responding with a practical conversation. So they are both legit conversations, yes? But because we weren't having the same conversation at the same moment, we weren't really communicating with each other. And within psychology, this insight has become so important that it's become known as the matching principle, which says that successful communication requires recognizing what kind of conversation is acquiring and then matching with each other. And this is extremely important in Agile for creating flow in meetings, improve quality of Scrum events, build trust with stakeholders, and improve safety within the team. But how do we do that? Well, there is a way of doing this, which is to ask questions. And in particular, a certain type of question, a special question known as a deep question. Deep questions are things that ask us about our values, our beliefs, experiences, dreams, or passions, and they allow us to reveal who we are, what we want to talk about, what frame of mind we are in it. And a deep question is actually much easier than it sounds. While deep questions invite personal reflection, reveal values, and creating authentic connection, surface level questions are here just to gather basic information, but rarely lead to meaningful connection. For example, instead of asking someone surface level question such as, how long have you been with this company? You can ask a deep question of what has been the most rewarding part of your time here? And instead of asking, where do you work? You can ask, what do you love about your job? So deep questions help us improve the team conversation, especially in the Scrum events. Here are four examples, one for each Scrum event that every team member can ask and answer, and it will improve the quality of the meetings that eventually will lead for a better delivery. In daily Scrum, we can ask, what could make today feel like a win for you personally or for your team? In sprint review, we can ask, what story are we telling in this sprint review that could be inspiring or engaging? In sprint planning, we can ask, what does success look like for this sprint? And lastly, in retrospective, we can ask, what is one thing we have been avoiding talking about as a team? So this question transforms routine Scrum events into opportunities for deeper team connection and improve the outcome. So instead of asking about facts of someone's life or work, we should ask them how they feel about their life or work. Because when we do so, they tend to reveal to us who they really are. They tend to tell us what they want, not only out of this conversation, but how they hope that we will see them and how they want to see us and what matters to them the most. And that's what really builds rapport and better teamwork that will lead for sure for reaching the team's goal. So in fact, what studies show is that it is so powerful that it is the key to allowing us to connect with other people. Because connection brings safety and eventually success. And the opposite will lead to failure. In a research that was done in the last few years, 86% of the employees and executives cite a lack of effective communication as a primary cause of workplace and project failures. And the number one obstacle to effective communication is the lack of alignment between the sender's intent, meaning, okay, and the message itself, and the receiver's understanding. So this misalignment occurs when what you mean is not exact what you say or what the receiver hears, and leading to confusion and misunderstanding. To overcome this, we should use the following technique that known as a looping for understanding. And it has 3 steps. Step number 1, ask a question, prefer a deep question. Step number 2, paraphrase. Once the person answers the question, you should repeat back what they said to you, yes, in your own words. Show that you have been listening and processing it. And then step number 3, verify by asking if you got it right. And they found out that when people use this technique, it transformed the conversations they were having, and it became conversation not about conflict, but about finding common ground, about trying to learn and understand from each other. So this technique can help improving your leadership skills and give real space and time to understand people. As you can see in this example, the person asked a question, what are you going through right now, okay, and got a possible answer. I feel that I have too many tasks to work on in parallel, okay. After he summarized in his own word what the other person said, okay, you feel like your workload is too high and you are overwhelmed. And then verify it. Does it sound right? And got an approval. And lastly, we can open a new loop, okay, with a new question. Can you tell me more about it? So when we look for understanding, we prove to people that we are listening to them, and as a result of it, they will then want to listen us in return. To explain how it works, I want to tell you about an amazing team that I work with. So this team was at its peak, right? 10 sprints in a row, every time goals met, barely any bugs, high morale. They worked as a one unit, like a jazz band, okay? Their secret? It was trust. And the center of the trust was Henry, their manager. Henry didn't like reports and processes. He liked to listen, offered clarity, and stood by them. But then, unfortunately, Henry got promoted. And David replaced him. David, smart, capable, eager to add value. He came from outside the company with his own solutions. So he shadowed the dailies. This is the first thing. Second thing, he asked for charts, suggested stretch goals, and the fourth thing is he added many status meetings. So the team didn't push back. They just stopped performing. They missed their first spring goal in months. In the retro, without David, the senior developer said, "We are not talking about the elephant in the room, the one that taking notes during our dailies." So I was brought in, and David said to me separately, "Elad, they shut down whenever I try to help." And the team told me, "We used to be trusted. Now it feels like we are being managed." So in our joint session, David came again with more solutions, okay, more alignment, clearer KPIs, but that wasn't the problem, right? So I spoke with the team without David and asked them a deep question. What is something you haven't said out loud yet? And they answered me anonymously with the sticky notes. So the first one wrote, "I miss Henry." We didn't have to explain ourselves to him. Another team member wrote, "Maybe we judge David too fast." Other team member wrote, "I have been comparing him to Henry instead of giving him a chance." So you can see the real issue wasn't just David's approach. It was like the team's grief. So I told David, "I think that you jump to solutions before knowing what people really need." So I guided him to use the looping for understanding technique. So David met each team member in one-on-one, and instead of telling them what to do, he only asked and opened with, "What is on your mind?" Got an answer, paraphrased, and verified. Then went deeper with, "What else?" Got an answer, paraphrased, and verified. And finally, invite elaboration with, "Tell me more." And again, got an answer, a paraphrase, and verified. So basically, he let them finally speak without fixing. He gave them real space to express themselves with no interruptions. He gave them an emotional breath. So you know what came up? They didn't speak about code, not about tasks, not about timeline, and not about projects. They spoke about Henry, about change, and about fear. They needed an emotional conversation, not a practical one. And After that, David set a team meeting and asked them to talk about practical steps. So basically, he matched the conversations. He moved from emotional conversation to practical conversation. So what they decided, they agreed to that David will step out of the dailies unless invited, no mid-sprint unnecessary surprises, fewer status meetings, and more transparency from both directions through Jira. Jira needed to be up to date with before the daily. And every retro should start with a deep question of, what do we need to feel trusted? And 3 sprints later, the team was back in flow. David wasn't just accepted, he was trusted. We all learned that trust isn't built through metrics. It's built by strong relationships, by talking about what is hard. And it can be revealed by matching conversation, deep questions, and looking for understanding. But sometimes even those techniques aren't enough to open up. So we need to do it in other way. To be vulnerable. Being vulnerable, it means you are open and honest and allowing yourself to be fully understood. When we hear vulnerability and we become vulnerable in return, it is the key to allowing us to connect with other people. It is the key as leaders to share our challenges, our uncertainties, and hear the same from our teams. Vulnerability is the key to create psychological safety in our team. So we need to take off our armor. With no vulnerability, let's make it clear, with no vulnerability, there will not be any creativity, no tolerance for failure, and no innovation. If you are not willing to build a vulnerable culture, you cannot create. It's just simple as that. But how can we create a vulnerable culture? Well, by asking about others' feelings and share our own. We engage in what's known as a reciprocal vulnerability, which means that we encourage being emotional. So we first share what we are feeling with others, and they share back with us. And that is when we begin to feel bonded. That is when we begin to trust each other. That is the way to really get to know the people you are working with, yes? And it will help us reaching our own goals and our mutual goals. But how does it really works? To explain how this works, I want to share with you a coaching session that I had. In the last year, I also started working as a career coach. A few months ago, I had a career coaching session with a manager from a European country. His name is Max. Max was offered what was many would call as the dream opportunity, a senior management role, a relocation for him and his family in the United States. Like, it's a huge salary increase, a prestige position, a fast track to wealth and status. But when he came to me for coaching, something felt off. He said, it's a big step for the kids. New school, new language, and my wife doesn't have a job lined up yet. So that made sense, right? But I could feel that it wasn't it. That wasn't the really root cause for our session. So we continued, and then quietly he added, you know, my mother is very sick. But hey, my wife and kids come first. And after 5 years of relocation, we will be very wealthy. So now I've been coaching for a while, but that moment called for something deeper. So I took a heavy breath and I told him something that I don't often share. I said, you know, my father died when he was just 46. And I am 46 now. And I will do anything that my father had a chance to meet my kids just for 1 second. So there was a pause. And then he looked at me and I saw that something in him changed. He said, the doctor gave my mom 3 years at the most. So how often do you see your mom now? I asked. Once a week, he said. And if you move to the US, so he looked down and said, maybe once a year. So I did the math from him, and said, you know what it means? It means that in an optimistic scenario, you will see your mother only 3 more times in your entire life. And he froze. And then I saw it. That moment, that one breathless moment when life gets brutally honest with you. So he didn't decide that day, but he saw his choices clearly for the first time, thanks to the reciprocal vulnerability. So I shared my own, and because of that, he opened up in return, and because of that, we had a meaningful conversation. He trusted me, and I understood what is really going on. I met him recently, and he decided not to relocate to the US. Max said that our coaching session changed his perspective. He said, we don't need to count years. We need to count memories. Memories with our loved ones. And wealth isn't just about money. Yes, moving to the US might give my family a financial wealth, but leaving my mother will reduce my time wealth with her. And it's not less important, right? He said that our conversation changed his life for the best. And it's amazing, right? How good communication can lead to a life-changing experience. So I just told you a story for my coaching session to demonstrate the point, which brings us to the next communication practice, which is storytelling. So as you probably know, I guess, storytelling is a communication practice where people use stories to share events, emotions, or ideas to connect better with people and move them for actions. And in Agile, as you know, we are shaping culture, we are unlocking human potential. So storytelling is your power to do that. Storytelling can help to connect emotionally, drive change, build trust, and make learning stick. So let's talk, how can we build a good story? So let's start with the formula. First, we want to tell a personal story, as I did, right? People connect with real experiences. So share yours to build trust and engagement. Second, play the characters using dialogue. Bring your story to life. Use conversations to make it amazing. Third point, focus on the peak. Highlight the key lesson, emotion, or action. That is what people will remember. And lastly, keep it short and punchy. Tie your story back to the topic or insight, and make it relevant. So we have the formula, and now let's talk about the structure. So with the structure, we are starting with the context, of course. Introduce the situation and characters and set the stage. After, define the challenge. Show the moment when change strikes or an issue appears. After, show the crisis. Reveal the low point where it's struggle, conflict, or uncertainty peaks. Talk about the resolution. Demonstrate the recovery, growth, or problem solving that leads to out of this crisis. And summarize with a takeaway. Wrap up with what we learn and leave the audience inspired. So now we have the formula and we have the structure. So let's take, for example, that I, as an Agile coach, I want to explain my team the importance of the well-known practice of failing fast in a small scale. And I decided to do it through a story. So I want to tell you a story of how I got divorced. Well, almost divorced. A few years ago, I bought my first apartment. It was perfect, bright, beautiful, and luckily, it didn't need much more. So just one thing, I wanted to repaint the walls. So just some, modern gray paint. Simple, right? So before the painter came, my wife gave me one of her classic wife tips. Elad, make sure to test the paint on the wall first. So I nodded. Sure, yes, I will do that. So the painter shows up. We pick the color. Did we test it? Nope, not a chance. So I leave for work, feeling like great. And then I came home, excited to see my new walls. I opened the door, and what the hell? The walls weren't gray. They were pink, but not kind of pink, but full of candy pink. So I turned to the painter, dude, this is pink. And he said, that is the color that you picked. And then suddenly, my wife appeared behind me. And she was completely shocked. So, and I tried to convince her that everything is okay. And I said, honey, this pink is so refreshing. It brings light and good energy. And she got even more angrier. Yes, she got angrier. If you will, and said, yes, if you will not fix it as soon as possible, you will find yourself sleeping on the couch for the rest of your life. and left the apartment by slamming the door. So I had no choice. I paid the repainter, and at this time, we tested the paint. And that is when it hits me. Whenever it's a paint, an idea, or a business decision, test it on a small scale and fail fast, because bigger mistake can lead to very expensive fixes. It saves time, and we can learn what works and what less. So we covered a lot. So let's summarize this talk with the following key takeaways. First thing, connect better with people by having the same type of conversation. You remember 3 types of conversations and the matching principle. Second thing, ask deep questions for meaningful conversations. Focus on the feelings, not facts. The third takeaway is unlock people by showing them that you really care about what they said, okay? And they will do the same in return. Looping for understanding, right? Ask, paraphrase, and verify. Share your concerns, uncertainties, so that other people will share their own, and the team will feel safe to share and solve issues, reciprocal vulnerabilities. And lastly, use storytelling to connect emotionally, drive change, build trust, and make learnings stick. So I encourage you all to start using all of those easy to apply practical techniques for better communication in life and at work. And I want to leave you with an inspiring statistic. I know that is not looking inspiring, but hold on, okay? Agile fails, but it fails not because the backlog wasn't refined, not because the dailies were too long. Agile fails because people stop listening to each other. The biggest blocker in your team isn't technical depth, it's emotional depth. Misunderstanding, assumption, and missed opportunities to connect as human beings. And with AI evolving so fast, what is the real role of humans today? It's about connection. It's about communication. It's about what only humans can do. Yes, AI can process data. It can summarize a report in seconds and many other amazing things. But you know what it can do? It can't feel. It can't build trust. It can't walk into a room and sense that someone needs help. It can't say, hey, are you doing okay? And really mean it. But humans, oh, yes, you can. You can show empathy. You can build real human relationships. You can navigate not with code, but with courage. So yes, AI will help us go faster, but humans, you help us go deeper. You create the culture, you create the safety, you create the trust that no machine can. And in a world filled with AI, what we need the most is amazing human communication skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Elad. That was incredible. Well done, well done.
Thank
Gave
you very
so
much.
much to think about, so many great reminders, and yes. Does anyone have any questions for Elad? We just have about 2 minutes left, but perhaps a question or two. Comments even, doesn't have to be a question.
Yes, any feedback is more than appreciated.
Everybody is quiet today.
Hey, I'll throw in just a quick comment. Elad, here we go. Hello.
Yes, Patrick.
Well, that was just fantastic. So many great points. Not enough time to sing your praises in the closing 2 minutes. I did want to add one little thought, and that is that my experience of conflicts and miscommunications is not just not only that we might be having different types of communications, as you outlined, like the three, or conversations, but inside that conversation, people aren't necessarily even talking about the same thing. They are disagreeing with each other, but they're not even talking about the same thing. And something I've found helpful is let's just create transparency. Let's make sure we're talking about the same thing before we decide that we disagree with each other. And then if we disagree, then we can follow a path toward a productive conversation. So that's really the only thing I wanted to add to what you had to say. Thank you so much.
Wow, amazing tip. Thank you very much, Patrick. Noted. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you a lot. Great presentation.
Thanks, Lava. Thank you very much.
Any last questions for Elad? No? Well, it looks like that's it. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I know that I really enjoyed your talk, as did everyone. So thank you so much, and really great luck next week. I know it'll be fantastic, so I can't wait to hear how it went for you.
Thank you
Thank you,
all. Thank you.
everyone.
Really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate you. Glad.